Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Natalie. This is Life After a Cult. It's actually Scientology Life After a Cult. I'm thinking of changing the name to just Life After a Cult because it's so long otherwise. Let me know what you guys think about that. I talk about my 35 years of being. I just got muted somehow. There we go. Starting over. Hello. Welcome, everybody in the chat. If this is your first time here, I'm Natalie. This is Scientology Life After a Cult, where I talk about what's happening in the world of Scientology news and also talk about my 35 years in Scientology, and most importantly, how I left with 3 generations of my family. But today is a very special day. It is a special interview. If you're catching this on the replay, jump into the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Any questions or comments that you have as well. My partner, Tony, who I've been with for about 10 years now, promised that when we all hit 10,000 subscribers that he would come on and do a live. And we did that the other day, thanks to all of you, thanks to my amazing moderators. We hit our first target, which was 10. Our next one, of course, is 20, because we're not going to stop. So without further ado, I would like to bring to the main stage my Tony. We got to get him set up, though.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations, Natalie, and everyone else included for 10,000. Way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing all your hellos there in the chat. I think what we're going to do is really just do this as a bit of keep it easy and do it as a Q&A. You guys can ask what questions you want to ask. We're thinking it's such, in my mind, I think it's so interesting the way Tony, someone who's never been in Scientology, falling in love and being with somebody who spent 35 years in Scientology. Because I only met Tony 2 years after I left Scientology. So I think we're just going to kind of start with how we met, and you throw out your comments or your questions. We'll start with the how we met. And Nancy, we got Nancy Allen in the background who's going to be starring questions. The super chats show up right away, but we got to watch for the question. So if you could put the word question in front of it, that'd be awesome. That'll help her as well. So let's see here. Let's start with, oh, that's right. I got to remember my housekeeping stuff. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, check your subscribe button. It's like on an airplane. You always want to check your seatbelt and make sure it's firmly attached. Always check that subscribe button. And if you like the video as we go along, hit that like button. All right, there's my housekeeping.
This is fun being right here.
Yeah?
I like it, yeah.
Let's make sure that's right in front of you.
Being next to you instead of downstairs moderating. This is cool.
I know. All right. So we'll start a little bit with, how we met. We met at a baby shower.
Yeah. My neighbor.
Yeah. It was Tony's neighbor and a friend of mine. It actually was a gender reveal party. They were finding out what the sex of the baby was. And I was friends with the grandma. So she invited me, and Tony, as her neighbor, was invited as well. And,
yeah, I was getting ready to go on my boat, and I was just going to swing through real fast and just say hi and congratulations, and but I was going to be brief, if I'm being honest. And before you know it, before I was actually able to go over to the house, my neighbor had came over and knocked on the door and said, "Are you coming to the party?" I'm like, "Yep, be right there." So I actually grabbed both of my boys, Miles and Dominic, and we walked over and within seconds, I was introduced to Natalie, and we just kind of continued to chit chat with the people that we were, that were around us. And I don't know, from there, I didn't think really much of it because I was just on my way to the boat, and we chatted for a little bit, and I went off on my way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a week later, I was there visiting that same friend. And we were like, oh, it'd be so great to get out on the lake today. Yeah. But she didn't have a boat, even though she lived on the lake. And she was like, well, let's go see what Tony's doing. And so we went over to Tony's, and we're walking up his back steps, just inviting ourselves over to his house, just going up to the back door. And he happened to just be walking in the front door of the house where you could see straight through. to the lake. So saw us coming up and we chatted and we went out on the boat.
Yeah, it was funny because they weren't shy about it. They wanted to take a boat ride. So it was I was like, let's go, let's do it. And we had a blast. It was absolutely an absolute blast.
Yeah, and pretty much from that point, it wasn't long after that we really started seeing each other, and it's been 10 years. We've been together ever since.
There was a moment, a couple of days after that, if you remember, I was driving with my two boys, Miles and Dominic, and we were driving down into town. If you can just imagine, Natalie is sitting at a table outside at a restaurant. It's a beautiful day, and we're literally driving down this little hill pointed toward the restaurant. And there's cars ahead of us. And if you imagine looking through the other car's window, through another car's window, and seeing Natalie sitting at a table, just as like a picture frame. And both the boys behind me go, "Dad, there's Natalie." They remembered her from the party from a few days prior. And then she looked back at us through these car windows like this picture frame. And we just connected eyes right there. It was quite something, actually.
Yep, we did. I saw him through the window of a car, all the way through the car, and thought, "Oh, hey, there's that cute guy from the party the other night."
Yeah. So, and the interesting thing too is, I lived in Los Angeles the same time Natalie was in Los Angeles, and I'd walked down through Hollywood numerous times. I lived in Santa Monica and Venice, and another period of our life, I used to travel a lot for work, and I was in Seattle frequently when Natalie lived in Seattle. Bring it closer to home. The towns that we live in were basically the same town for 2 decades. She was even on the cover of a local paper almost monthly with her photograph that I used to go to the gas station and pick up to use for help me start my fires in the backyard. Never noticed it. So we were always kind of, right around each other. I even worked next to the Scientology building downtown Minneapolis for 5 years. We were always like inches away and never really knew it.
So close, but yet so far.
Yeah.
I mean, we counted up the states, and it was like we were within blocks of each other before we ever met in California, in Seattle, and definitely Minneapolis. It's amazing that, and then in the town where we live, it's just amazing that our paths didn't cross, and probably a good thing because it was before we were both single and ready to mingle.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, for sure. Timing was, timing is so much in life. And man, it was just, it was toying with us for a bit, and it, it was perfect when it was right.
It was the right timing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, CB, for the super chat. Lifelong Minneapolitan here. What keeps you here despite the cold winters? Also tell people it doesn't snow 12 months a year here.
Yeah.
That is correct. It doesn't. In fact, right now, I've lived here for 3 decades, and I don't recall it ever being as warm as it is and no snow. Being able to drive around in February without being worried about spinning out and everything that goes with winter driving is amazing. But what keeps us here is, I would say, I mean, Tony would leave the minute that if he could, but we do have children. My 3 children are here. They're grown, but I have grandchildren here. Tony has 2 sons who are still here. One's in college and the other one's in high school. So it's predominantly family that keeps us here. But one thing we want to do, we've been talking about this a lot lately. In fact, we even went to an RV show yesterday.
Pretty cool.
Because we thought, how fun would it be as we grow the channel? And, I need to work things out with my, my work at my office and whatnot. But if we could travel around a little bit and live stream along the way, and even share the fun stuff about traveling, in whether we use we have a travel trailer now, but we were looking at what does it cost for one of those ones that you drive? It cost a lot.
Yeah.
That's what it cost.
Yeah. Natalie loves glamping, as you guys know, and I love camping too. So we're trying to, think ahead a little bit and how we can both, be mobile and still do what we do, and kind of live our best life too. Sounds great. Cruising around the country in a tour bus. Yeah,
that would be fun.
Yeah,
but with all the amenities at home and being comfortable.
Very comfortable.
I love the glamping. Now, So I mean, now where we met, which was pretty much our origin story. And it's
Yeah.
been 10 years. It's, we have our ups and downs like everybody. I think I can speak for myself in this way that when we were first together, because remember, I had just left Scientology 2 years prior. So I was still working on shedding a lot of that cult programming. And it was Tony had hardly even heard of Scientology
Yeah,
before.
I knew of it, of course. I'd walked by the blue buildings numerous times, and I knew of it. I just really didn't give it much ever. I really truly thought that it was some dude and ready to go in a spaceship and take off and bring a bunch of people with him. I knew really nothing about it. So when I met Natalie and started to learn about it, it was well, you can imagine the things that you discover from that conversation. So here we are, it's
Yeah.
quite something.
Yeah. Those first, back then too, I was still experiencing some harassment from Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one time where we were at the house. I think we were already living together by then,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We
You're
dated
talking
for
about the PI or
yeah.
yeah.
We dated for about a year, and then I moved in with him. And we lived on a little like inlet from the lake.
Like a lagoon that goes out to the big lake.
Yes. And we would go fishing all the time right off the dock there.
Awesome.
And we would sit out back and visit with friends or just hang out together.
It was relatively public. It was like in a little harbor area where there was lots of people, lots of action, and then across the way, people would fish on the other side, only about 50 feet across the lagoon from us.
Yeah, exactly. So other people could be there. And across the way, there was this guy who kept showing up to fish, and he would fish, but he wasn't dressed
It was like in
somebody
street
fishing.
clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also didn't have any beverages with him, which I've never seen somebody fishing without beverages.
Yeah. And I don't think he had bait. Truthfully, he waved to me one time, and I said, "Hey," back to him, and I noticed that he didn't have any bait with him. And then he came back the next day, and the next day,
yeah, he just kept showing up, and he would be out there, and even spoke to you a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned my name.
Yeah, just kind of just pleasantries across the lagoon.
So one night, I'm out there. It's getting dark, and I look across, and I can see him. Instead of leaving, he goes under this boat covering thing.
Yeah, canopy
for where a boat was. And he doesn't come out of there. And at first I think, oh, maybe he's going in there to like pee in the water or something. I don't know. But he doesn't come out. And I can see him kind of moving around in there. So I'm in the lower level of Tony's house, and I've got the lights off because I'm watching this guy. And Tony comes down, finds me on the floor, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
And we had already been kind of like suspicious by this point a little bit. This is odd. Yeah.
And I told him, I'm watching the guy. He went under the canopy and he's still there.
Yeah.
So then I became even more convinced that something was up. And Tony was like, "Well, I'll go check it out." And I kept saying, "No, don't. Just leave him. Don't interact. Don't engage. Just leave him." So Tony goes upstairs. I'm still crouched down on the floor in the dark, looking out, keeping an eye out on this guy. And then I see Tony go stomping across the yard.
I was being more stealth. I wasn't. But she saw me.
Oh, you weren't being stealth at all. You were like, wait. You were a man on a mission. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is not going to end well. So I just watched. I stayed in the house, and he had to walk around this little lagoon to get to the guy who was headed towards his car at that time. And then you reached him.
Yeah. By the time he saw me, I think, coming, and he got into his car, and he just sat there and pretended like he was doing something. And I just rolled up to him. And I don't remember what I said, but I just said, I know you're not fishing. And, and I think it's probably time that you stop pretending. So, mild, but effective.
Yeah. Stop coming around.
Yeah.
And he did. We never saw him again.
Yeah. And there's been other times too where I've seen people taking photos from a distance. I'll be driving up to the house, and they're like behind a couple other houses on the street taking photos. And in the beginning, it was a lot. I would say more than a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that changed, because when I first left Scientology, I did an interview with the Tampa Bay Times and a few other things. And I worked for pop culture radio station locally at the time. And when it would come up, we would then talk about Scientology. And I would, talk a little bit about it. And because it was a pop culture station, it was more in relation to Tom Cruise. That's back when he was jumping on the couch and all that.
Yeah.
And when that really changed, as far as where I felt like there was active harassment or spying from Scientology, was when Leah Remini's show came out. When that came out, like pretty much all that stuff stopped. And, we got busy and went about our lives. And I think today, Scientology there's just too many people, too many who have spoken out, too many who are sharing about it, that, they can't be harassing everybody. They don't have enough people, especially with the people that have left Scientology and the Sea organization as well. Alicia, just found your channel recently and I can't wait to meet your Tony. Here we go.
Hello.
Yes. Hawaii. What's it say? Hawaii referred him as my Tony. It's just so endearing to me. Thank you. I call him my Tony because at our age, we're both 50. You're 52.
Right.
He's
52.
turning 53 in May and I'm 53. And it sounds weird to say my boyfriend.
Yeah. I like it when she calls me my Tony.
Yeah.
I have to say. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, in the mic.
I like it when she calls me my Tony. It makes me feel good. It's great.
And it just, because we're not married. We just, our kids are grown. We're not having kids together. We just didn't really see a reason.
When we first met, I knew that this was going to get serious, and I literally told Nat, I don't think marriage is going to be something for me. So I'd like a future. And if you can promise to never marry me, I think we can have one. And it's working. It's great. It's just the way it works for us. And again, not that there's anything, I have nothing against marriage. I just find it that without that piece of paper or church and state, that kind of stuff, it really works great for us.
Yeah, it does. I think there's something, I've been married 2 times before, and I feel like I make a better girlfriend, than a wife. Although we've lived together long enough, we've been through everything long enough. It really would be no different if we were legally married.
No, it's verbiage at some degree, but yeah.
That's right. Dari, hi, Tony from Croatia.
Hello.
All right. Erica has a question. Was there any one particular thing when you each were like, yep, she is the one for me. This one's a keeper. What do you think?
Babe,
when did you know I was the one?
Almost, well, on the boat ride, the second boat ride, when you and Connie came over and we took a boat ride, I just knew it. It was, fabulous. But everyone, you guys, you can imagine how easy it would be to fall in love with Natalie. It's just that easy.
I think that I don't recall, I think, the exact moment. It was just, I always, even before I met Tony, my friend who was his neighbor would talk about just, I got this new neighbor because he had just moved in. And I just felt this pull. I would drive by the house. I'd never seen him. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what his status was, anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt this pull. And when I met him, I felt this strong urge to touch him, but not in just a like touch him right way.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that too, but it was, I don't know. It's like I had this question that needed to be answered, and it couldn't be answered unless I actually had my hands on him.
Yeah.
So what I did was, because, it could be weird to walk up to a stranger at a party and be like, hey. So
that would be weird.
I was super sly though.
Yeah.
I was super sly. What I did was I said, hey, why don't you come over here and take a picture with us? Which allowed me to be able to put my arm around his waist.
Yeah.
And I just felt something, and I didn't understand it. And the more time that went by, the more I realized, like, this could be more than just hanging out. It could be more serious. So I think maybe that answers your question, hopefully. Bakes with butter. How much has your awareness of trauma responses increased since Natalie started SPTV?
Hugely, hugely, in ways that I didn't think it would. I knew the topic, I knew the direction, I knew the purpose, I knew the goal. And I have been no stranger to trauma of my own and clearly others. But what it has really transpired to for me is massive inspiration. The having you all to listen to and read the comments and be a part of the chat. The force that numbers can bring, and the support that is necessary when this type of trauma is been provoked. It's really difficult when you live in a vacuum and try to deal with it. So immensely. We could do a whole show on that. Immensely.
Yeah.
Immensely.
And that, like, there were things that I would share with him at times about, it came up fairly early on in our relationship that I did. Yeah, that I had been in Scientology, and he was just so open and okay with that. And in my experience, being in Scientology is not something that I ever hid, especially once I left and recognized it as a cult. Now, I say I grew up in a cult. And I've always been open to questions about it because I found that to be healing. But one thing I know for quite a while, I wasn't really recognizing was, until I did, that I would share these stories sometimes and it would mortify people that happened, yet it wasn't mortifying me because there's a lot that I did not recognize as abuse because that's all I knew. That's just how it was. Kendall links, okay, time for Natalie's go-to spam recipe or favorite Hawaiian cookbook. Go-to spam recipe, easy. Spam musubi, which he makes better than I do. You take seaweed, which is the nori, and you put rice, which you got to prepare a certain way, and then you put fried spam in there and you wrap it up. We live on that in Hawaii.
Yeah, I like to take a little like a nigiri take on it. I put a little wasabi and just a little dash of soy underneath, and then wrap the seaweed around it, and it's delicious.
Yeah. The other thing is
little sesame oil as well.
Yeah, I love poke too. I have a very simple poke recipe. I love to make that. Love making that.
When we go back to Hawaii to Natalie's home, the whole flight there basically is like, what kind of poke is she gonna get when we land? It's right. And Foodland, where we go to get it, has a poke bar, which is it's like heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a lot of poke.
A lot of poke.
Corruption breeds terrorism. I'm only 20 minutes late today, which actually means I'm early. Hello from Jonathan in Lamar, Johnson County, Arkansas.
Welcome.
Keep up the great work. This movement is really gaining some momentum. Thank you so much. And thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's grab another question here. Let's see. Did that.
So this is what you do.
Yeah, this is what I do behind the scenes. He never gets to see this.
This is a lot, very cool. Yeah, you're like a drummer.
Yeah.
The right foot, left foot's going, and the right hand and the left hand's going, and then you're talking. Pretty cool.
The mods help a ton, though. So
yeah, you got some great mods.
I do. Diana, how do you handle support someone with childhood trauma? Ooh, that is a good question for really an expert. In my experience, I mean, just what I try to do is just listen and create a safe space for them to be open and try and be there as a witness to their pain.
I'll take that a little further and let me just say as someone who remembers being a child and and going through some trauma, what I wanted adults to do was pay attention, notice, and get on my level. Notice and get on their level. And that's humongous because obviously a lot of the time it's either being done by someone close or, in a way that isn't picked up on or recognized. So recognize it and get on their level.
Yeah. Kelly Mills, Tony, did you find yourself having to pause before responding to something she said or did, which was a throwback to her past? So I guess like when I would share something about the past in Scientology.
Pause? No, not at all. But I kind of looked at it sometimes as a first.
Yeah.
There were a lot of firsts for us and for Natalie because she grew up in a cult and didn't experience a lot of things. So even like, for example, snowmobiles, we did a lot of firsts. Going to Costco, believe it or not, was a first. And
well, I'd been to Costco, but not willingly. I think more like I had a thing when we first met. It was really hard for me to be in big box stores, Home Depot, Costco. I still don't know if it was more because of the mall shooting that I was in, or if that had something to do with the cult. It could have been many things.
But trauma. It came from trauma. And what happened, I'm like, hey, let's go to Costco. I need some things. We need some things. We went, and as we walked in, I could tell Natalie's demeanor and her body language was changing, and I didn't know why. And it was almost like she was like shaking like a leaf, and the walls were closing in, and all the people. It was having so many people around and not being adjusted for it.
There was, especially when I first left, and honestly, I would say the first several years until I started learning more about like cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that, I was shedding that cult mentality and my cult programming from childhood, but then I was left with no tools. I wanted so much to let go of what I thought was real before, which is great, but then I had no way to deal with or no go-to to process what felt like overstimulation in my environment. And I also didn't know at the time that my brain had rewired in ways. I didn't learn about this until a year ago when I went to the University of Minnesota to see a team of neurologists for neurological issues that I was having that were manifesting physically in my body. And they really helped me understand how trauma and what I went through caused my brain to rewire. And so when things would trigger certain things, my nervous system would be affected by it. And it felt my perceptions of it felt very different, and it felt very threatening. That's why before it was like when I was in Scientology, I go to Costco. I still didn't like it. I mean, who likes who likes going to Costco? It's like I mean, I like going because I like to see all the stuff.
It's a busy place. Yeah. They do a good job.
Too many people. But when I got more tools for that is I think when it made it easier to do. And Tony created a safe space for that.
Absolutely. But it was the raw time, I think, if I can put it in any way, like the skin had been burnt and it needed to heal. It was, to touch it would have been raw and painful, if that's a visual.
Yeah.
It was raw.
Elise 21. Did Tony know anything about Scientology? What surprised you the most?
Everything. I knew very little. I knew it was a cult, and I knew, but I didn't give them any time of my day. I just wasn't important to me. I just thought they were, like I said earlier, some Martian man who wanted to take people up in space. I really had no clue, aside from it was a big cult. And so I didn't have any sense of it, really. I just didn't.
Yeah. Me and Taz, I'm off to work. Was it love at first sight?
Hi, me and Taz.
I don't know that I would use the word love. There was definitely something more than a physical attraction.
It was noticing at first sight.
Yeah.
No question. It was just, but
there was a familiarity.
Yeah, no doubt. It was very comfortable. It was surprisingly comfortable at first sight. Yeah.
It's like we'd been together for a while.
Definitely.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maria, as My Tony, have you considered changing your legal name to My Tony?
I might. I'm changing handles on things, so I may as well consolidate and make it easy, right?
That's right.
Maybe.
Samantha, what is your favorite part about living in Minnesota? I'll go first. For me, it's about the seasons. I love the change of seasons. I also love the people. I think that's kind of a Midwest thing. Sometimes there's this joke about being, Minnesotans can be kind of passive aggressive, but I think it's really more, they're just more reserved in ways,
Mhm.
but also very open, but not too much. And there's this joke and saying in Minnesota that a Minnesotan will give you directions anywhere you need, except to their house. And I would say I kind of experienced that, but
Yeah.
they're very open. And I really love the seasons. And now that my kids or grandkids are here, we're stuck here. But we've talked about maybe spending some time somewhere else part of the year when we're able to do that,
Right.
when we're able to be away for a longer period of time. And we thought maybe we'd start that with, we got a travel trailer last year for our glamping. And we want to do a lot more of that. And if I can figure out a way to live stream from the road, we just think that would be a lot of fun. And I know there are different options for that. So we're figuring it out, but that's a goal this summer, something that we want to do, to be able to do that.
And I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I grew up here. I was the one watching like the Brady Bunch Hawaii episode with, I want to be there. And funny enough, Natalie was watching it thinking she wanted to be here for the season changes. So, I mean, I love Minnesota, but I've spent the majority of my life here. My family's still here. But my favorite thing about it, I like fishing. I like nature. And I guess the month of June and July here are really spectacular. Yeah.
It is really nice. All right. Our friend Steve Kahn. I'll never forget how we first met. Instant friends. Do you guys remember? Of course we do. I met Steve first during an Instacart delivery, and we became friends since. How could we ever forget Steve?
Hi, Steve.
Still friends to this day.
Yes, sir.
Jane, so happy to finally meet you, Tony. I feel like I already know you through Natalie. Love you both.
Hi, Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Pause for Andrea. Hey, aloha from Alberta, Canada. Congrats on reaching 10,000. You deserve what? You are deserving of many, many more.
Yeah.
Each of your family members has an important voice in this space, and it's really great to meet Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all you guys. You guys are what got us there. And we will keep showing up. I keep saying this. You keep showing up.
Yeah.
We will keep showing up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, CB. Have you been to the Spam Museum in Austin? Please. I've been there 2 times. Once before the renovation and once after.
We planned days around it. Yes, for sure.
Because it's what, 2.5, 3 hours away?
About 2.5, yes.
Yeah, 2.5 hours. And when family come from Hawaii, that's a place that they want to go as well.
It's a pretty cool place if you haven't been. There's a conveyor belt that runs the entire ceiling all the way around the perimeter of the building. And it's kind of like a Willy Wonka chocolate factory for Spam. It's pretty cool. It's fun.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's really, I would go again. Next road trip, maybe we'll go south first and then we can check it out again. Yeah. Becca Jean, Tony, how have you accepted the baggage that Scientology leaves in person, especially when the person is yours?
Accepted? Well, I don't know if I would accept it necessarily when anything happens to individuals that I don't think should. I mean, trauma, I'm not accepting it from Scientology, and I wouldn't accept it from a private person. Human beings, we need to just not do that to each other. What was the other portion?
I think that, especially like the amount of baggage in that way.
The baggage part?
Yeah. I mean, he did not grow up in Scientology. But
I still got baggage.
Don't think that he didn't come without baggage.
Yeah. So, we both meet each other with baggage. Just so happens to be Nat was in a cult and I was living a life that contained baggage too. So, it's a two-way street. She met me with baggage, so she had to deal with mine as well, just like every relationship that you get into. But hers was unique, I would say, asterisk some of the baggage. But it's been a true joy to be with Natalie and to help her navigate life, and as she helps me navigate life.
Yeah, he's made it we talk about this a lot. one thing Tony and I talked about early on in our relationship, and we've continued to talk about this, is the need for acceptance. To accept somebody, if you're going to love somebody, to accept them where they are.
Yes.
Not for what they might be or what you want them to be, but if you can accept that person where they are. And I think that was a big part of it.
Yes.
I mean, I'll tell you straight up, I was much more of a hot mess when we first met than I am today. I was a hot mess in a dress, let me tell you. So much of our ups and downs, because remember, I was stripping away everything that I knew, that I believed in, how to face the world, how to show up in the world, how to see and process things. And for a while there, I didn't have anything to replace it. In hindsight, I would have gotten into therapy or done something sooner than I did, because that became a turning point for me, because I didn't realize that. I didn't realize the importance of having tools. And especially when you dump all the tools you ever had, I just didn't know how to process the world. It felt very overwhelming to me, down to noises and sounds and too many people. And it was something that was so obvious. So he knows that, even today, if I have a crazy day or an overstimulating day, or like the other day, when I forget when it was. These days are starting to blend together, but it was on a live with you guys, and it was after Miriam Francis, and it was tough that morning. It was really tough to talk about, and I cried all the way to work.
Yeah.
And then I cried at work, and then I cried off and on during the day, and it was a lot. And I was thinking about doing a live that night. I thought, no, I got to take a step back. And I come home, and Tony's got the bedroom with the lighting that I like, the humidifier, the diffuser, even the music.
The little things.
Yeah.
The little things go so far.
It's the ecosystem that I needed to thrive in.
Yes.
And I know his and he knows mine. And he always takes efforts to help create that for me when I'm feeling like I used to just go into the closet and shut the door.
Literally.
Yeah. Where there was
small spaces are good.
Yeah. Small spaces I actually like. Maybe that's why I'm so obsessed with tiny homes and all that stuff.
I would think so.
It feels cozy.
You like safe. Small things.
Yeah, I do.
Just little
Tabasco
bottles. It's like, but really fast on the acceptance. I want to just circle back for a second, because when we met each other, we had both come off of a divorce. We were in our early 40s, and I know for myself, I was more interested in having this new relationship start with acceptance, because in my mind, I just didn't think that love would come without the acceptance part of it. So it was really important and we did spend a lot of time about talking through, what does acceptance look like to you, and what does it look like to me in this relationship. And so I thought that acceptance was necessary to love. Really. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Sherry Bakewell, thank you so much for that.
And I accept you, baby.
I
so accept you.
Judy Chang sending love and appreciation. Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you.
Love you back.
Rules is the lawyer. Great to meet Tony. Thank you. From your number one South Dakota SPTV neighbor. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And
SD. Neighbor. Love the Black Hills. I love South Dakota. It's
a go back.
Amazing place. And the sunflower fields, really beautiful. Yeah.
I would love to go back to South Dakota. Laura, thank you so much. You guys seem like partners and best friends. So vital, especially going into a relationship full of trauma. I know I'm in one. Mm-hmm. Thank you for replying to my email. I really do want to help. Thank you so much, Laura.
Yes, thank you. And we are. And to have someone in your life that you can feel acceptance from, the trauma opens easier in my experience. And I know it is. It's a discovery, unveiling. Peel back the layers, any cliche you can think of. But it's when you have, I feel so fortunate to have the acceptance from Natalie and vice versa, to be able to open and share and heal.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that would shock him. Tony's very,
Mm-mm.
he's creative and very open, and he got me to do so many things more spontaneously. Because remember, not just that I grew up in Scientology, but I was in the Sea Organization. So the way my mind, and I'm a Virgo, so add that to all of this. My mind worked in ways, it's all about what is most efficient, not what I would enjoy
Yeah.
or what I would like to take the time to do. Is all about efficiency.
Me, not so much. I
Not at
love
all.
I love efficiency, don't get me wrong, but I'll take the long road to get there sometimes. I really do. If here's a great example. And we get in the car sometimes, we're going to go somewhere, and Natalie will pop on the GPS, whatever the fastest route is. I'm like, well, fastest by 4 minutes. Let's go this way because it's a much prettier drive, etc. So just taking that extra time. I mean, here's another thing. I'm going to spin off here for a second. Socks. When I met Natalie, she had holes in some of her socks. I'm like,
Not because I couldn't afford socks.
yeah, it wasn't like that. But I'm like, why do you keep wearing those socks with holes in her big toes sticking out? And I'm like, and she's like, well, it boils down. Well, you can explain why, but yeah, tell them
It's
why.
because they still, they still work in my mind. That was the thing, is that, well, they still work. I grew up, and especially growing up in Scientology and being in the Sea Organization during what should be very formidable years, you're really forming a sense of self and understanding of how to live. And I'd been on my own since I was 16, and I just was good at surviving. That's what I could do. I could take whatever you gave me and make that work. So I just had this kind of attitude that, well, this is what I have, so I will work with this.
Isn't that something? She would work with it. There were other opportunities to get another pair of socks. She would work with it, but take that idea and run across the board with it. It ran the gamut. She would just deal with it.
Yeah, because that's all we had. Often, I remember being in the Sea Org, and it's like you're lucky if you get sheets, and here is your one pillow. Here's your one. You have one toothbrush. There's things I didn't even know till way into adulthood. Like, I didn't know that you were supposed to replace your toothbrush. Some things I didn't even know until, I don't know how I didn't know it, but a lot, even being with Tony, because my ex-husband was a Scientologist. He did not grow up in Scientology. But it was just, there's so many things with Tony that I learned, oh, I don't have to do it that way, or there's another way, or spontaneity can be a good thing. And we're actually quite different when you get to know us. We have a lot in common.
Very.
But he is way extreme on the non-planning kind of ADHD creativity side. And I'm more on the, like, if we're going somewhere, I've already mapped it, looked it up on Waze, made sure there's no traffic.
Mm-hmm.
I've double checked it a few times to see how much time there is to get there. And then I leave 15 minutes on top of that. More if it's winter. I'm always thinking through everything like it's a chess game.
I have to pause and like wait a second before I sometimes make a move, because I'm just ready to go. Like, bonsai, let's jump. And I've learned that the hard way sometimes also. So, giving it a second. Natalie's been incredible for me like that. Just like I know I've been incredible for her in other ways. It's just as different as our ecosystems requirements are. We find a way to blend them. And I think we do it quite well.
Yeah, it works, or we wouldn't still be here.
Yeah.
Just so you know. Oh my God, Tony reminds me of David Cassidy. Oh yeah, I can
really
see that.
That's funny. Here, can I do a quick side story? So David Cassidy, it's not my first time I've heard that, because when I was a kid growing up in my neighborhood, there was it was full of bunch of kids, and we were probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old, and I was born in 71, so I hit that David Cassidy time perfectly. But the girls in the neighborhood they were all singing like the Do Run Run and all those songs in the garage. So they needed to find a boy, just any boy, I'm sure, to grab and sing with. They wanted him to be David Cassidy, so they brought me and they put me on this pop shop box, this crate that they found, and I stood in the middle of this circle of girls around singing David Cassidy songs and pretending that I was David Cassidy. I'll take it. Thank you.
Aaron, what state did you finally meet in? Minnesota.
Yeah.
Which is where we are now. Hey, Diane, more fun than sitting at home.
Hi, Diane.
Make sure you guys go subscribe to Diane's channel there. Because remember, Diane's the one who helped with the email leaks from Scientology.
Yeah.
Natalie, my Tony, we are owners at resorts in Cabo and Cancun. I'll text you. You would have so much fun. We've been going for 18 years. We can set you up. Yeah.
Fun.
Let's do it. We got to renew our passports.
Mi niños.
I do that right away.
My boys speak Spanish, so I had to, and I've dabbled here and there, so I get by, and I love trying. It bugs my kids because
it's embarrassing,
but I love trying. So, gracias, amiga.
Jazzy girl, Tony, how have you two navigated through her deprogramming together? It must be so hard to deal with.
So hard to deal with? No.
I made up for it by having lots and lots of romantic time with him.
Let me just say that Natalie is when someone wants more and wants to put the work in and move forward, just keep moving, keep discovering. She's insatiable. So hard? No, it's not. It is life. And I don't care what people do for their past. People need to be good to each other. That's what I care about. And admit failure and be okay with being wrong and all that, all that stuff. But when someone puts the work in, that's all I see. That's all I see. And Nat has put the work in, still does, and I know always will.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
Nettie for the W. Natalie, your compassion, heart, and humor is so important in this movement. How did you survive in a movement that seems to stifle those qualities? Live in LA, from Minnesota, adore you. Thank you so much. I tried to keep a low profile, to be honest. I am probably the only person in the history of the Sea Organization that joined what's known as the Estates Organization. That's the people who run the dining room, take care of the buildings where people sleep, all that. And that was intentional on my part. Everybody else in there was busted down into it. They were in a higher position in the Sea Organization. And that's where everybody who got in trouble got sent to work, because you're always being demoted in the Sea Organization way more than you're ever promoted. I was unfortunately promoted out of there eventually. So I wasn't there very long, but honestly, that was part of it, was trying, because I knew that about the Sea Org, and that even though I was capable and I looked really good on paper, as far as the Sea Org goes, I knew that I wouldn't survive in an environment that was as hardcore as those could be. So I just tried to stay as minimal and low as I could.
I imagine Natalie always having a real sharpness about her at any age, just having that sense, that guttural sense of direction, if you will. Even if she didn't know it, she's just really sharp, really beautiful. Yeah.
CB, do you ice fish? I've done it. It's not something, as much as I like the seasons in Minnesota, I'm still not a huge fan of going out when it's cold. And even though I've lived here for a very long time, remember, I was born and raised in Hawaii with the ocean. And to me, it's still unnatural to walk on water on the frozen lake, even though it's not safe right now because it's been so warm this year. But it was just hard to.
It was another first. I mean, it's a big thing around here, but I personally prefer summer fishing. But it's fun. We did it a couple of times.
Yeah, you just got to have the right gear for it. I need better socks.
It's all about the gear. Yeah.
Still, it's so weird. I would listen to you talk about the socks. I do have better socks, but I don't. I always say that too. Like, why don't I just buy more socks?
But it's a thing. I mean, it really is. There's times where I have to go, hey, you're doing the sock thing. It's like, oh, it's okay. It's time for a new one.
Yeah, exactly. Marlene, I love the Hawaiian artwork behind you. I just can't make out. I can just make out the word patient. What are the other words? Oh, this was. Wow. So this is made by my daughter, Shelby. You can see it here. Oops, there's a glare. But it's basically the Hawaiian words for kindness, unity,
humility,
patience. Yeah, and all the Hawaiian words that go with it. But my daughter made it for, I think it was Christmas or something one year. I really love it. I love it a lot. Afila, how long after you met did you tell him you had been in Scientology? Was it a gradual reveal? I think I would say it came up within the first week. I mean, when Tony and I, when we connected, we spent hours together. So my kids were grown. I was living on my own, and my son, who was in his mid-teens, was living with my ex-husband. Then he would just come over to my place. So when we didn't have kids, I would go and spend those days with Tony, and we talked. We would just talk so much about so many things. And once I realized, like, I can pretty much tell him anything and he's not going to be too thrown by it, it made it really easy to open up about those things. I think a lot of it was, to be honest, probably now since I started doing YouTube, I would say, and you tell me, I feel like he's learned more about it, because, there's things I would tell him, but more as it would come up,
right,
kind of a thing. But I think he's learned more now about the whole experience than ever, because
without a doubt.
Yeah. Because we talk about it more. Let me unclick that. Rosie, ever thought about creating a reality show where you and Tony drive around to all the secret CFS locations like Petrolia, etc., to look for Shelly? No, but we are open to it. That's why I said we want to get ideally it'd be when you could drive around. So I have this hidden agenda that's not so hidden, really. I'm going to tell you guys right now. I want to really grow the channel and be able to do that, right? Maybe we could work with like a Winnebago people or something to get a drivable one and do something like that.
We are dedicated to bringing down Scientology, that no new members, and whatever we can, whatever this movement can do for the folks that are in, and whatever is most effective. And if we can be, coast to coast and move around and be, we would. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of we have a little bit of unpredictableness in our life right now. We have to, Tony finished about 18 plus. In fact, it's been almost 2 years now since your surgery.
Yeah.
With he has a rare and aggressive form of prostate cancer.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I do that. I have I'll be there tomorrow, and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot.
Yeah.
It didn't work out that way.
He'll be like, well, why don't we just leave and do this? And I'm like, because you have those doctor's appointments. So he had surgery. He actually had kidney cancer as well that they found. So they took out one of his kidneys and his prostate. And funny thing is, I only have one kidney because I gave one to my mom. And so I have the right kidney. He has a left kidney. So together we have a pair.
Something, isn't it?
So we just so happen to we each have one kidney. Yeah. So together we're a pair.
In general, we're open and we have lots of ideas about a lot of things. Yeah. And you never know.
Yeah, that we want to do. There's every 12 weeks, Tony gets checked. He finished his surgery. He finished hormone therapy. They actually, he was prescribed, or this one oncologist wanted to do it for another year. And it was just horrific, really, really hard on him. He was throwing up every day. I mean, we tried so many things to help with it. And he's still recovering from that. They say it can take 12 to 18 months to fully recover from that. So he still gets the fatigue and throws up on occasion, but not as often.
Even more of a reason to hit the road, if you ask me. Yeah. Really?
He's already like, let's just go. We can go. And I'm like, we can't be that far.
It'll work out.
It'll work out. We will figure it out.
For sure.
We did a couple years ago, maybe it's been 3 years now. We did rent a small RV
Sprinter van.
Yeah. But we only went 4.5 hours away, but we moved around a lot. So we went to a lot of different campgrounds and things as well.
Yeah, it was fun.
Maria, oh no, not married. So you can't have a room together. And that's because in the Sea organization, you can only have a room together if you are married.
I'm a never in.
Yeah, he's a never in.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that's part of it for me is, I enjoy like in the Sea Org, this would never be allowed. So that could be part of the fun. That could be part of the fun there for me. Tan Louie, you are soulmates. Thank you so much. I think that's a good way of describing it. Good way of describing it.
There's nobody else.
You found your lobster. Question: why is my Tony so hot?
It's hot in here, man. Where are the fans?
I got the menopause fan right here.
You got the Aerosmith
I
video
think you mean
fan
physically.
going.
He's very handsome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Always has been.
Thank you. It's fine. Thank you for saying that. I'll tell you, just a personal note. I don't feel that way after surgery like that. My body, I don't recognize it. I look at my face in the mirror and it's not the face that I was used to. It looks a lot different. But I so appreciate that. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, definitely. So cool. My Tony, when did you realize you met a superhero?
Pretty much right away. It's hard not to notice Natalie and the way that she carries herself at any stage. She's miraculous.
Oh, thanks, babe.
It's true, babe.
Pam, were you together when you had to get your daughter out of the cult? And you are a very cute couple. Thank you. We were not. That was when I was married before to my husband at the time. That was right when we were leaving Scientology. So I think when I got her was around 2009, and then we officially left 2010. That's right, because it was around the holidays. More fun than sitting at home. Tony, what was your favorite reaction to finding out Natalie was in Scientology? Oh, what was your first reaction to finding out Natalie was in Scientology?
Not much. I don't think that there was much of a reaction. I just knew it was a cult, and I really didn't care. Yeah. And I met the person, right? I met the person. The cult doesn't. I define anybody, and things that we're into doesn't necessarily define us, right? The person does. Who the people are. I met the person, and that's really all that I saw.
Yeah. Work down.
Pass it on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jazzy girl, what are your professions, Tony and Natalie? Bunch of stuff. Boy. I have a real estate brokerage. I worked in real estate for a while and land development. And I also do a podcast called Tonka Talk, where we share the ways people create community and connection in the community that I live and work in. Yes. And now I'm a YouTuber.
Yeah. I like to call myself semi-retired. My health has put me in a position to not be able to continue my career that I had before. But I was in the distribution business for many, many years. And that was one thing I really enjoyed. It was the largest independent distributor in North America for pre-recorded music. It was called Navarre Corporation. That's what I did for my career, but I've been dishwasher, stock boy, bartender for many years. I ran a clothing store that was my father's for a while, fashion clothing store. That was interesting. A bunch of stuff, really. I'm looking forward to getting back to work and being busy, though.
He is, I call him my Swiss Army knife because he can do so many things. And he helps a lot on the channel and with real estate as well. Nancy, did you know about the hilarious parenting tactics Natalie had for her kids, especially teen years, before she spoke about them on her channel? Oh, yeah, because we raised Tony's kids.
Yeah, Natalie, if Miles and Dominic are out there, they'll tell you Natalie is a large, humongous part of their upbringing. So, yeah, I did. And the story about her putting the dog poop out in front of the window for her middle one that used to try to sneak out of the house. I just thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I loved it.
That's just solid parenting.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were, though, a few times where, and that's the interesting thing, too. I think, for one, when I love his boys like my own, but the boys have two really good parents, their mom and their dad.
For sure.
And it wasn't, I didn't need to be as crazy as I would with my kids because the boys had a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
And I was just a bonus in there.
Yeah.
And I love them like my own, even today.
Yes.
And they're just the most amazing young men.
And that's how we set it up. I didn't want Natalie to have to necessarily parent, especially discipline Miles or Dominic. I wanted her to have fun and them to have fun with her as in that type of a way.
But I did do all the homework.
Yeah. Oh boy, she did. That's because I really couldn't. But and the boys do have a mom, and she's wonderful. And so we kept it that way. So it worked great.
Yeah. I think that if you're in a relationship where there's children, at least for us, I think the one thing I never did was I never disciplined the boys. That was up to their parents to do.
Totally.
I got to love on them and
help the homework.
Yeah, help with the homework.
But also, you did so much. We went on. Natalie would set up all kinds of cool stuff. We had a pirate ship on the Mississippi River. We did. She had this guy who's in town who dresses up like Johnny Depp's character of the Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack. Yeah. This dude shows up at the house. He perfect and just she was always doing tons of fun stuff for the boys, and yeah,
always fun. Samantha, what did you think about Natalie's 4-hour interview with Aaron?
I was blown away. Not from what I heard, not from what I saw, but by the support of the people on Aaron's channel that were encouraging her to continue to share. And Aaron, thanks, man. Thanks. I see what how you're supporting everybody. And I just think, some people would hold things close to the vest, and, I'm just really impressed that you see sharing just keeps helping things grow and achieve greater things. Kudos to you, bud. Really, sincerely.
Johnst Stoll. Is there an Oregon, Spokane, Washington? I love your channel. Thank you so much. I don't know, but if you Google Scientology Spokane, there might be a mission. I don't believe there's a full-fledged org there, but because there's the one in Seattle, but potentially there's a mission, and you should be able to find that online. Dip me in glitter. So Tony and Natalie, what's our prize for 20K? Ooh.
Hi, dip me. 20K.
What should we do? You guys tell us. Let's come up with an idea, something fun again. Maybe we will take you along with us on a camping trip.
Yeah, we like fun. There's no doubt about it. We know how to have a lot of fun, and that's what we like to do. We like to blend serious with fun, no doubt.
Yeah, so you tell us. We're open to suggestions, but I think that we should have a goal like that for sure. Kelly, hi, Tony. Are you as committed as our Natalie to bringing down this cult?
Yes, I am. Yes,
definitely. He's helping a lot on the channel.
There's, my mind works in mysterious ways, but there's a lot going on in my mind and how to bring down Scientology. And I have a few things that I'm working on right now behind the scenes that I'd like Natalie to share when it's appropriate. Yeah.
Question: do you eat tater tot casserole? I do like it. It's usually I try it has things in it that I wouldn't normally eat, but I have eaten it and I love it. I love a good hot dish here in the Midwest.
I've had it.
I think it's fabulous.
What's that casserole with the potato chips on the top?
I don't know that one. Potato chip casserole.
That's another one.
Natalie, how did you come to Minnesota, and where are your first thoughts about Minnesota? Cold, that it was cold. My mother married a Minnesotan, her last husband, who she was with for 20 years up until she passed away. They were living here in Minnesota. So when I knew I was going to split with my husband at the time, it was like, well, I'm going to start over. I had just left the Sea Organization. And so I wanted to be where my mom was. So I moved to Minnesota. That's what brought me here.
When we met, I thought she was nuts. I couldn't believe that she wanted to move to Minnesota and liked it here in Minnesota, coming from Hawaii. But of course, that to be expected. Me being from Minnesota, but it boggles me still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get professional help after leaving Scientology? Are you still getting help? I did not right away. I wish I'd have done it so much sooner, and I am. And I have. It's made a huge difference. Truly, it has. The more, what I found the most helpful really was educating myself, because I think that therapy is valuable. I think it's even better if you can understand more about how it's done, why it's done that way, the thought process behind it. But that's kind of my approach to almost everything. I want to see it from multiple angles so that I feel like I can better understand it. I'm always too like going places and touching things I shouldn't be touching. I'm like a kid. I'm like, ooh,
shiny.
I should not. Shiny.
Yeah.
I should not be allowed in museums. I have to fight that urge, but my curiosity, I had someone, a really good friend of mine, say that she said, your curiosity is a lot like a child. And I would agree with that because I've been out of Scientology for 13 years. So in many ways, I feel like I've only been around for 13 years.
Mm.
CB, thank you so much. Thanks forever. Your recaps, thanks forever. Your recaps every morning. It keeps on me from, it keeps you from staying up all night watching the streams. I get it, CB. I get it.
I see that
You're
a lot
all
in the chats. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a lot of content creating going on right now, and there's a lot of things in the mix, and everyone's doing a great job out there. By the way, it's really been amazing to be watching from the chats. Yeah, it's been great.
It really has. I keep saying, I'll keep showing up. You guys keep showing up. Tim, Tony, what did you think when she first told you about her Scientology past?
Again, I didn't think much. I thought cult, but not much beyond that. I come from a place that, for one reason or another, I don't see the what you did. I see who you are, and that's it. I just do. So maybe I'm not wise enough in that way. I say that a little tongue in cheek, but I didn't care.
Yeah, he really didn't. There's part of what I love about Tony is there's not a lot of judgment there on people and what your past is. It's who are you now? What are you trying to do now?
I was more interested in, learning things about her. Not just, I didn't really care about the Scientology bit. I cared about her, but we were having fun. Yeah. For example, we're both big fans of music, and Stevie Wonder, for example, we were listening to Stevie Wonder and we were sharing, and then Natalie shared some Hawaiian artists with me, and we were listening to them, and then I heard this song they were singing. I'm like, wait a minute, I know this song, and it was Cecilia and Capono, and the song was a Stevie Wonder song. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, we just heard that on the Stevie record. So then Natalie was like, no way.
This is Cecilia.
No way.
This is not Stevie
like,
Wonder.
No. And also with Hall & Oates, same thing. They're like, no, Hall & Oates did it.
Cecilio and Capono, who I recommend, by the way, they were really big in the 70s, and Capono's still doing music today, where it was just music that I grew up with, and we would hang out and listen to it. And he's telling me, no, that's a Hall & Oates song. I'm like, the hell it is. Take your blasphemy somewhere else, please. I don't need the negativity.
Yeah. So we were just hanging out, cooking good food, listening to lots of good music, enjoying getting to know each other, and Scientology portion of it, for me, it didn't matter.
Yeah. Victoria, how long had you been out of Scientology when you met, and how did it affect your dating? I'd been out for barely 2 years. And I don't know how it maybe affected our dating. And to try to understand that, you need to understand, and I think you'll get to know Tony and understand, it wouldn't have been that weird for him. He is a collector of oddities. And I was just one more oddity. He likes things that are different, and I definitely was different.
Well, you can put it that way. I've always been akin to the island of misfit toys. I've always felt that I'm like the ringleader of sorts. I just find that place very normal and attractive and enjoyable. Yeah. And that's where I am a geek at heart. And, I like odd, collectible, a special, rare. And I think that's probably a better way to put it. I like special and rare things. And that's what you are. Make me cry now. I'm going to cry. Yeah. Sorry about my voice too. My voice hasn't always been like this. I know it's probably not great for the mic, but I was intubated for a long time, and that my vocal cords never quite came back yet.
Laura, do you have any kids together, or just from your previous marriages, do your kids get along?
I've always wanted to in a way, because I just think it would be such a beautiful, neat, amazing child, but
no way. Yeah. No. So I have 3 who are grown, and Tony's are just about 17 and 19 now.
Yep.
And they do. They all get along great. They've never all lived together, but because when Tony and I met, my kids were grown for the most part.
Right.
But we've done camping, we've done all kinds of holidays and different things together. Yeah, they do. Fun. They do. They actually get along really well because they range in age from Tony, who has the youngest, who's 17, and my oldest is 33.
Right.
So that's a big range, and yeah, they've always gotten along well. We've appreciated that.
We do family pictures.
Yeah. We try to. It's getting harder now with kids gone in college and mine working and dealing with their own children as well. Corn Freak, what was the hardest thing for you to hear about happening to your Natalie?
Boy, there's a lot of them. Well, the sexual assault, of course, was a hard story to swallow. That one for me, they all still get me, but of course that one's so colorful and vivid when you hear the story. But just the day-to-day crap that people in Scientology go through, young kids, and any number one of those stories that you've heard Natalie share, or any other of the ex-Scientologists, I mean, take your pick. Mm-hmm. They're nuts. Yeah, I don't know. They're nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he really helped me, especially because I told no one about the essay, because it was part of the deal when I left the Sea organization, is if I agreed to not speak of it, that they would let me go, that I wouldn't have to go through the whole routing form that a lot of Sea Org members did that could drag on for months and months. And it wasn't until I had decided to leave Scientology that I told my mom, which she already had disagreements with Scientology. And it's what I think pushed her over the edge with leaving when she found out the truth about what happened. And I told Tony about it, and he's just so great at creating like this safe space and helped me feel more comfortable in our relationship. And not to get super graphic, but sexually as well, really helped me heal in those ways where I felt like I took my power back in those ways. And when I took my power back, he got to experience that power fully. So he was like, yeah, thank God for that cult thing.
Yeah,
right. Hell Gear, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you. Laura, were you physically attracted to each other? Oh yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Of course.
Yeah, that was never an issue. Definitely. We had a lot of fun. What?
Are you still?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I am too.
That is something that we've always had. And it just helps to have those additional bonds and ability to communicate, because without it, it's not going to last.
Yeah. Relationships are made up of all kinds of things, right? It's a percentage of so many things, and all of them kind of need to work in conjunction with each other, I think sometimes. And ours, I think, all work well together.
I would say. DDT shoots. You've made my day. Such a well-adjusted, happy couple.
Yeah.
Well, catch us on a bad day.
No, we're still well-adjusted though.
All the small stories you've shared are so open and encouraging to hear. Thank you both. Thank you. And thank you so much for the super chat.
And thank you for sharing yours too. I'll tell you, that's where, when I sit and do the moderating with Nancy and Dipme, that's what I'm just blown away by frequently. And as someone who I believe everyone's experienced trauma, to what levels and degrees and where they come from. We all share differences, but it makes me inspired regularly. And I feel like I'm not in a vacuum with my own, if you will, even though we don't share the same.
Yep, totally.
Super wonderful.
Mama Ray, thank you so much for that. We should save all the super chats for our Winnebago.
The names are always fun. Mama Ray. Yeah, for sure.
Christian B, Aaron likes Costco. Only person ever. I like going and seeing all this stuff. I just struggle with the number of people there.
Yeah.
And the open space. And I do think some of that was because of the mall, when I was in a mall shooting. So every place I go, I'm always like, where I need to know where the exit is.
Yeah, but the source is trauma. That's for sure.
Yes. Dina, did you notice Scientologists who had unexplained organ issues? They say the purification rundown does that to some people. I would agree with that. My mom suspected that her kidney issues were aggravated by the purification rundown, but we have no proof or evidence of that. Neuropsych, hey, you mentioned vitamin supplements. Do you take them? Yes, but not as much as I should. I try to take vitamin D, which is something, especially here in Minnesota,
Yes.
when we're indoors a lot in the wintertime and not getting sun, and some magnesium and a few.
Pounding the D.
Yeah, definitely.
Seriously, I need more sun. Yeah.
Okay, so I did that one. So Sally, what's the weirdest thing Tony has discovered about Scientology? Oh, that's a good question.
Weirdest thing.
Weirdest thing that we. Oh, you thought the whole like hip hip hooray, L. Ron Hubbard praise thing was
It's
weird.
bonkers. The whole
Yeah.
thing. The whole thing is bonkers. I don't understand it. The collective mind that it takes to all say the same thing, do the same thing. You know, what did DOA say? Eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, work. I don't get it. I can't compute it. It doesn't compute for me, which is good.
Yeah, it shouldn't compute.
But
if it computes, that's a problem.
Right. Yeah. I can break it down and I can understand, you know, the facets of it, but I don't compute it.
Yeah. When you were married in the Sea Org, was that really a true marriage? And when you were sharing custody, was your ex-husband still in? My first marriage, yeah, it was a legal marriage. It only lasted a couple of years. So I was 17, he was 19. But he's still very much a part of our family. In fact, my first husband, Dan, has traveled with us.
He's an amazing guy. Hi, Dan. Yeah, he's a cool man.
And my second husband, who I had my son with, no, we left Scientology together, and then we split not long after that.
And I've met Brad too. Had a very nice conversation with him.
Another one, just a good guy.
Yeah.
Nebulous. Should the world be concerned about if Scientology ever infiltrates AI technology to spread its nefarious objectives? I don't think that Scientology would trust AI. I mean, to use it that would allow for more Sea organization members getting on the internet and other things. I don't think that their attention is on that as much. I could totally be proved wrong, though, but I don't think so.
Their tactics, like playing the songs and stuff like that, doesn't seem very high tech.
It doesn't. Christian, when I can't keep up with what's going on in SPTV Nation, I tune into your channel for the necessary updates. So helpful. I also didn't realize my Tony was your Tony. Well, thank you. I'm glad you find it helpful and that it works. Lexi Evans, besides traveling on the trailer, what is something else that's on y'all's bucket list? I think to do more, you know, we've done, because I'm from Hawaii, he's been back with me a few times. I would love to do more traveling together. It has felt like, to a degree, because it has been, that our lives been somewhat on hold to a degree as Tony's gone through his cancer treatment and now recovering from that. But he gets checked every 12 weeks. Because unfortunately, it's a rare and aggressive form of prostate cancer. And the expectation is that it's going to rear its ugly head at some point. But what we have in our favor is that it'll be caught, and we've gotten a second opinion. We've seen multiple oncologists, and the way they've prepared us is they basically said he will likely need to do different forms of treatment throughout his life.
That's what happens when you're rare and unique. What can you say? You got to laugh about it. You got to have fun with it. You got to, you got to make it right with yourself. You got to realize that things change quickly in life without cancer. So, just keep plowing through. Try and stay positive and try and, be okay at the end of the day, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Diana, my Tony, you're now our Tony, as Natalie is our Natalie.
Love it.
Love that. And we will absolutely take
I'm
that.
thrilled that you think so and want so. So it makes me feel great. Thank you.
Samantha, Natalie, did you help open the St. Paul org when they bought the old Minnesota Science Museum building? I was still in Scientology when they were fundraising for it, and they would have different events there, but I was gone by the time it opened. So I've actually never seen the inside. I have not. Steve, our buddy Steve, is there a chance that everybody can meet Odin? If not, kiss him on the top of the head for me. We'll have to do a
we'll
video.
see.
We'll do a video and I'll share it as a short
Sure.
because it'll be too hard to get Odin on camera, and he's probably just sleeping somewhere.
Odin is our 6-year-old giant schnauzer.
Yeah, that's our baby.
Mm-hmm.
David, sorry, off topic. Why are the non-Scientology victims of the WISE orgs never mentioned? Coursework, New Lingo, and Force Stats. So WISE is the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises. It's a front group for Scientology using L. Ron Hubbard's administrative technology. I've talked about them in terms of being a front group. And there have been multiple members of WISE who are Scientologists who have gotten in trouble legally for forcing their staff to study Scientology and join the church. Once in a while that pops up and I'll definitely cover it. But if you know of anything, like a specific thing you want me to talk about in regard to it, by all means, you can email me at natalie@tonkatalk.com. Let's see. Denver Steve-O. Denver Steve-O. Minnesotan by birth and heart here. Hey, favorite Minnesota celebrity, favorite place to travel, one place in the state you have not been able to visit yet that is on your bucket list. Ooh, okay. So favorite Minnesota celebrity.
Prince.
Ah,
I mean, come on.
yeah.
Has to be Prince for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Hands down.
Favorite place to travel in Minnesota for me, that would probably be Grand Marais, which is up north. And we don't get there enough because what is it, 4.5 hours?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Grand Marais is beautiful, but so is Bemidji. There's this, it's a birch trees, the white birch trees. They have forests of them, which I have not seen others like anywhere I've been. It's northern Minnesota, either direction you go, is gorgeous.
Yeah. So then one place in the state you've not been able to visit yet that is on your bucket list. Let's see. Is there any place in Minnesota that I've not visited that I want to go to? I would probably say just more of the smaller towns up north. I've gotten as far as Lutzen and Grand Marais.
Yeah.
But, a little closer to the Minnesota border, maybe. We love going up there and we would love to do more camping there. It should be better now. When we just started our glamping together last year, we really never went far because, one, I need to learn how to trailer to drive the truck while we're pulling the travel trailer. Because last year it was really hard for Tony to be in a car for any length of time. And that's part of why we got the travel trailer, so we could go places but still have a toilet and a bed with us to make sure he can be as comfortable as possible. And we want to do more of that. I'm going to learn how to trailer the travel trailer this summer so that I can help with the driving and we can go further away.
Real quick, I've been to a lot of places in Minnesota, and I don't have a specific place on my bucket list, but I'll tell you, we have lots of rivers and lakes. The Mississippi runs right through. The St. Croix runs through. So that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get on one of the rivers and kind of follow it and just see what we find and pop off in a little town and see what we get.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Lena in love. Thank you so much. Arctic Norse here. Why Odin? Trust he's not not one. Yeah, he's
Why the name?
Yeah, because we were watching, that show Vikings.
Yeah, we got really into Vikings.
We got super into it.
Yeah, and at the time, we also had a bearded dragon, and we named him Ragnar. So it was a Vikings theme from the get-go because probably inspired by how into the Vikings series we were in.
Yeah, we loved it.
Yeah.
We were super obsessed with that.
But he looks like an Odin.
Oops. No, sorry, Nancy. I hit the wrong button.
Hi, Nancy.
I don't even know how that happened.
Duck.
Sorry, Nancy. Nancy's behind the scenes helping us start questions.
Live, ladies and gentlemen.
The one thing she told me, don't put me on camera. My hand slipped.
Or did it?
Janet, Tony, when did you realize your name was actually My Tony?
When I did I realize it was My Tony?
Probably when you got involved in the chat and you were seeing other people calling you that too.
Yeah, it would have been for sure when I got involved in the chat.
Yeah, and I just didn't know what else. That's how I always refer to him, even with just friends and people, because my boyfriend sounds kind of weird at our age. Or sometimes I would say my partner. But usually then I'm like just My Tony.
We're kind of non-conventional in some ways. And so finding words that maybe aren't what the typical descriptions are, I find ourselves kind of gravitating to anyway. So, and I can't remember who suggested it. Someone in the chat suggested I change it to My Tony instead of what I had prior, and I did, and I like it. I've grown to really like it. So
yeah, I think it's fitting. Pippi Longstocking, what would happen if someone just walked away and left Scientology? Well, it depends on where they're walking away from. If you're a parishioner, you're not a staff member, you're not a C organization member, they're going to try and contact you for quite some time until you outright are very clear that you're done. You got to be really aggressive about it, and make it very clear that you've denounced Scientology, because then it becomes what they consider a suppressive act, and then they can't contact you. If you are a staff member, same thing, but they're going to go and try and handle you. A C organization member, they will go after you depending on where you were in the C organization and what they think you know. So it's kind of different. It's different for each person. Nancy Taylor, silly question, I know, but you and Tony seem so very compatible. What are your astrological signs? I am a Virgo.
The bull. Taurus.
Indigo Twin, thank you so much for the super chat. We stand your Tony. Love to see the strides you made after escaping. Congrats on 10,500 subs. Thank you. It's really all of you I have to thank for that, for being here, and the mods for doing a great job. I'll just keep showing up as long as people show up. Laura, would you ever have call-ins where we can call in for relationship advice? Yeah, I love that. That's a fun idea. And I know there's software to be able to do it, so maybe we will do that. I think it'd be fun.
And I think I'd be very confident in just sharing our stories and answering questions. And if people can glean anything from people who get along, excellent.
Yeah, it's I think like every relationship, it hasn't been this perfect road. It's been a lot of love and a lot of fun, but we've had our moments too. We broke up 3 times, but for very short.
I don't see it like that. I never broke up with you in my mind.
You did. One of those times it was totally you. It was totally you.
Kind of, but
the other 2 times it was me.
Like at anything, you're going to have ebbs and flow, right? You're going to have ups and downs, but the point is moving forward. Keep moving, and stay open to it. But we all have our moments of, just trying to work through it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Miss Sunrise Dawn, do you ever do the tourist stuff when you visit Hawaii? When we visit family in Florida, we rarely do the tourist stuff because we're so focused on visiting with family. Sometimes we do, because, growing up in Hawaii, I grew up wanting to do the tourist stuff, but always didn't have an opportunity to be able to do it. But we try to stay not like, we'll do a VRBO and not stay in the tourist destinations. And we've made friends, and I have family on the Big Island. So not too much, but we do some of it.
I tend to like the off the beaten path when I'm traveling. And so I like the local spots. I like to get into the culture of it. And I typically don't go to the touristy spots.
Yeah. He doesn't. Lena in love. We would not be here if it wasn't for you now too, and the content and the way you present it. Thank you so much.
She does an amazing job.
And I wasn't even going to do this.
So
Aaron was like, Aaron had said, you should do a channel. I'm like, nah, man, I don't think so. Like, who would listen to that? And after doing my interview with him, the feedback, it was you guys, honestly, it was the feedback. And I thought, okay, if people want to hear what I have to share, that I'm here for it because I'm very passionate about ending Scientology and ending these abuses. Not just, honestly, not just in Scientology, in cults in general. There's so many of them. I'm very passionate about that. And this allows me to do that.
Well, and like many of you, I'm sure I don't have to be an ex-Scientologist to want Scientology to be done.
Yeah.
Right. Like anything that isn't productive in our society, isn't anything that is abusive. It just needs to stop. So it's easy to commit to, especially being Natalie's my Tony. Yeah.
Yeah. Tina, in the last 20, best advice: it's not how you love, it's how you fight that determines your longevity.
I like that too.
Yeah, that is interesting, because I will say we don't fight. I mean, you can't count on one hand. I mean,
I don't like to fight
Yeah.
with Natalie. I
He
don't
knows
mind.
better.
I don't mind getting involved in a fight, but I do know better that too. But it's not. How's that productive? It just doesn't work for us to
Yeah.
fight about anything. It's just, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. We've worked hard at creating an ecosystem for each of us. I have mine. Natalie has hers,
And they're different.
and they're very different. And then we can blend. So we work hard at setting it up ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's what we've learned over our time together. I don't like to react so much. I like to have it, I like to pre-think if possible.
Yeah. And I had to learn a lot too, and adjust and make changes, because coming from the background I did in the C organization, this whole emphasis on efficiency over everything else. And like when if I had some type of disagreement with him, I want to handle everything right now, and I want it put in a little bow and be done. Like everything needs to be completed right now. And I sometimes would bring these things out when we were going to bed, and he'd be like, "Can we just talk about this in the morning?" And I would interpret that as he's blowing me off and he's not listening. And then one day he said something to me that stuck, where I finally understood what he was saying. And he said to me, he said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be here tomorrow, and we're going to talk about it. And I'm still going to be here after that." And it was like, it helped me relax, because I'm like, oh, that's true. He's not going anywhere. I was just so used to people just disappearing from my life, especially after losing all of the people that I did when I left Scientology. Not so much my immediate family, but all of my friends.
Right. I realized that I needed to, how my definition or explanation needed to suit how Natalie could hear it. And I also, I adjusted. And I found that was a better way to communicate for myself anyways. I wasn't necessarily a great communicator. I've gotten much, much, much better. But it obviously comes from, running into, circumstances that help you become better at it, as long as you keep thinking about it. Right.
Yeah, we've both come a long way.
No doubt.
Because we're on opposite sides in many ways in how we think, it forces us to move more towards the middle. And I have learned a lot through that example in our relationship, because I came to realize that that's kind of where that seems to be more the sweet spot. You're not getting everything you want. That person's not getting everything they might want, but you're creating a new reality together that you find out is actually more enjoyable than the fixed ways that you were. Like for me, it was like rules were rules, because that's in growing up in the strict environment I did in Scientology and in the C organization. Rules were rules. If I read a rule, I couldn't break it. If it said not to jump in the pool, no one is jumping in the pool. It says right here, do not jump in the pool.
Yeah.
Go through the steps. I couldn't do it. This one breaks every rule he possibly can. So it was stressful. And because Tony's so much more spontaneous than I am in ways, I'm more the logic. I'm more the Spock in the relationship.
Yeah. And it's good. It's good to have, I've been less impulsive with age, but it doesn't mean that it isn't right there.
Yeah.
And it's been a nice balance. But it's been interesting because of the extreme differences. I got no problem taking a leap, taking a risk. Let's go. I am all fine. I like that feeling of it.
Even the things like physically things that he wants to go do. And I'm always like, wait, no. I have not met my insurance deductible. We cannot do that.
Yeah, I love it. There's something, it's like therapy for me. I just like to move. I like the movement, but I also like the adrenaline. I like that feeling of and I like the freshness and newness and spontaneity and just, I love it.
He likes the thrills, and
Totally.
not that I don't like to have fun. I think it's because I spent so much of my life stuck in fight or flight that ever since I left Scientology, I kept saying, I just want to be bored. I would literally pay money. I would pay money, take my money to be bored.
I just told my sister the other day that I think my fight or flight was broken earlier in my life, because it's like, I have to get to a certain place of like, okay, I'm not running, it's happening. And now it's like I have to like get to the place of fight, and then it's all good because we just squash it, move on, and then keep rolling through it.
That's right. Christian B, who would listen? All of us, 950 watching live right now. Your empathy and viewpoint are wonderful and inclusive, and I like your Tony's viewpoint. Thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that. It's nice to know that when you're speaking like this to so many people that you don't think I'm totally off the wall.
Give him time.
Yeah, give it time.
It's so interesting too how Tony really connects to, like, we've just met DOA, right? Scotty.
Love him.
He loves Scotty. They are kindred spirits because
Scotty, you have no idea, man. It's for real.
He would be running around in a fur coat hat.
Oh God, yeah.
He used to run around in this Speedo that would mortify the children because he would wear, we lived on,
sorry,
out of my ear.
Sorry.
We lived on the lake, and he would wear this little Speedo. It was like a short Speedo. It wasn't the total.
You swim faster. It dries faster.
It was like these little shorts kind of, but it was a Speedo. And he used to just go out in the front of the house and play hoops with the boys. And then friends' parents would be dropping off, and he'd just be so mortified by it. And just a lot of stuff like that.
It's all fun.
Victoria, I love the way that he is your safe place. My husband is mine. Do you both have anything that you both just collect together? That we collect together? Not really.
No.
And again, this is where we are very different. I like things put away. If I had my way, the whole house would look like a VRBO with just a lot of things put away.
Yeah.
I'm a little more minimalistic in ways.
Yes.
That's why I wear socks with holes.
Yeah. And, I like to blame it on my ADD, but I'm not sure I can. But the thing is, I'm not cluttered, but I have things out. I need to see it. And I like to collect things. I have a reason for everything.
Yeah.
So if it's hidden away in a drawer behind something, it's like it's not even there. It's disappeared forever. So I need to kind of have things set up where I can see them.
Yeah, he wants it all, everything out, and then that makes me crazy.
So at least set up separate ecosystems, but they both share the same one, if that makes sense.
Yes. Nancy, who streams out of the Squirrel Squad do you enjoy? Do you each enjoy? So which ones you like? We know that you're probably your favorite, I would say, is DOA.
I've been saying I am DOA's newest, biggest fan.
Yes.
I really just think that, there's a each and every one plays an incredible role. And I think they're all spectacular. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be, political and saying that I'm not a political person. You will know this soon. I just think they're all really spectacular and special, but I gravitate to DOA. I like the levity and brevity and the looseness and the seriousness and the dedication. I just think that
the outfits, the characters.
And he was
running around in a Spider-Man outfit the other day. I'm like, he's like, can you zip me up? I'm like, okay. I don't even ask anymore. I just do what he says. So I zip up the Spider-Man costume. I'm like, all right, be on your way now.
I have a Spider-Man costume and I've wanted to wear it. So I totally vibe on that. But at the end of the day, there's a reason for it behind it, and that I can get behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Afila, Natalie, you seem so well adjusted, learned, and changed. How is that possible after 35 years in the cult?
Amazing.
I don't know. I am incredibly fortunate. I think a lot of it is I'm an avid learner. I'm ever since I left, I just consume knowledge and try to find if I'm having we live in this day and age with the internet where there's so much you can learn, and I just continued to learn those things and work with people, work through a lot of the, I'm a big fan of cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm a big fan of, I have a friend, Annette, who she's a certified life coach, but one who went through intensive training, didn't just decide she's one day and put out a thing. In fact, I want to have her on soon because I think she has a lot to do with a lot of the healing that I did in the last couple of years. She's been a big part of that. And Tony's just been so supportive.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Natalie tackles it. It doesn't matter what. She tackles it. She might not even know what it is she's grabbing onto to bring down, but that's how she approaches her life. That's how I see it. Something pops up. If she may not be aware of something, and the minute she is aware of it, she will research, break it down, and have it all diffused, taken care of, and put away. Yeah. That's how she does it. If she needs to learn something, if something needs to happen, she doesn't call IT. She does it. She'll find a way, man.
I'll go finds a way on YouTube or Google, and
there's no stopping her.
Yeah, that's most of what these days, most of what I consume is on YouTube. But I think it's so amazing that we live at a time where we have access to everything, to so much information. And after spending 35 years with limitations on what I was allowed to learn or study, I'm so hungry for it. Everything. Even when I decided like, hey, let's get a travel trailer and do some glamping, I spent hours.
And here's another thing that happens when Natalie starts to get her mind on something. I've gotten very, very used to this. It happens. It just happens. It's only a matter of time. I like to sound smart and call it my Shakespearean quote, but it's a foregone conclusion when she gets involved in something. I've seen it too many times.
Liz Gale, hey girl. Tony, what's your best advice for being in a relationship with an ex-Scientologist? Great question, Liz.
Let it all go out the window. Just start with getting to know them as a person and not as an ex-Scientologist.
And I will say this, if you're in a relationship with an ex-Scientologist, or I would say anybody who came from a controlling group where they've done this separation and healing, do not blame things on their cult experience unless they're telling you that that's where it's from. He will jokingly say your cult is showing. Yeah. I'll say that too. I'll be like, ooh, that was really culty of me. But if I'm really struggling with something or I do something, and if he says your cult is showing and it's not as a joke, I want to throttle him.
Yeah, that's happened too.
Yeah.
But I don't pull that out a lot. I mean, not to sound like I'm not joking with that stuff, but it's just, like anything, I think, listen to them, ask questions. How about that?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it to your partner? How would you like to be received? How would you like to be spoken to? What are your triggers and what should I avoid? I mean, ask questions, I guess, would be my thought.
And learning how, I think when you understand, like when I found out Tony had ADHD, I didn't know a lot about it. I learned a lot more about it. And I read books. I read books about it and was like, oh, so this is why, this is the mechanic. So I was better able to not push certain buttons and not get frustrated either, because his brain works differently. My brain works differently. And we understand that about each other. So we work really hard to not weaponize that and use it as a way to make that other person feel bad or wrong in what they did. I think that's one of the cruelest things you can do to a person is throw their past in their face.
Well, and when you're with somebody, wouldn't you try to do anything you could to make things work well? I mean, it's just, for me, I mean, you just try to make things work good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Rather be in Maui. Ooh, us too right now. Do you think being low level, like you said, staying small in Cult of Scientology, this helped keep you away from even more trauma had you been exposed to the higher level shenanigans? Absolutely. I mean, considering what I was exposed to as a Sea Org member was bad enough. And as a Scientologist after that, for sure, definitely. And I think I knew that. Even at a young age, I knew I had been around the Sea Org long enough that way I could protect myself was by just playing stupid. and and excel at whatever my job was. Whatever I'm doing, I really believe in doing things as good as I possibly can and improving on it. I'm not afraid to make mistakes because I think that's how we learn. So I'll just jump in. But if I can learn from it, then I'm better off. And in the Sea organization, I just knew because I saw what was happening around me that if I could stay more low level, I did get promoted and they were going to promote me again. And that's when I got pregnant and left. And because I knew that other promotion was going to fast track me to the rehabilitation project force, which was the gulag in the Sea Org. And I knew that's where I would be headed because I could navigate things to a degree, but I knew that I would never live up. They don't set you up for success. You are set up for failure. And it feels, being in the Sea organization, it's like real life Squid Game. You're just going through one game thing that you have to survive to the next. It's like being on Survivor, if you know that show. You have a limited amount of resources that you have to work with, and all you're trying to do is survive. And when you live your life that way, in or out of Scientology, when all you're trying to do is survive, you miss so much because that's not true. In Scientology, at any time, we could have been experiencing joy and other things outside of Scientology. That is part of the lie. I would say for sure. The Michael Malley show. Thank you. Off topic. What do you think of the Mormon religion? I had some family through marriage, through my stepdad, that were Mormons, and his mom was Mormon, and she was one of the kindest people that I ever met. I don't know a ton about it. I know that there are extremes in Mormonism, just like in about every other religion. I don't really know enough about it to say. I've seen a lot of the different documentaries and things on Mormonism, but it does seem to be that there's one form of it and another more extreme form of it. So I don't know. I don't think it's as bad as Scientology, but I think they got some stuff that's, needs some work.
Yeah, I really can't speak on it, but I'm a very curious person. So I have done some, I guess, Brigham Young stuff. I've been exposed to and was curious about, but the early days of it starting, I was kind of interested in knowing about it, but I'm pretty easy.
Jesus is God. How did the live with Aaron come about? Have you always been in touch with him? Aaron and I were friends on Facebook for about, I think several years. I think from the time he left Scientology, but we never really interacted. I remember he asked me a couple questions early on. When I started doing my Tonka Talk podcast, I started talking about my time in Scientology. On Fridays, I would start to share my own story because the theme of that podcast is community and connection. And I'm incredibly obsessed with that because I come from a place that limited that.
Yeah.
And so I started talking about my Scientology story on Fridays, and Aaron reached out and said, "Hey, why don't you come on and would you share about this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then the rest is history. And then here we are. Kelly, burning question. Okay, so where can I find my very own My Tony? You two are adorbs. Life goals. I would start hanging out at baby showers. They're co-ed now.
Right.
Because that's where we met. Really, it was a gender reveal party for a soon-to-be baby.
Yeah.
Which now the millennials have all this, like you get the announcement party, the gender reveal party, and then the actual, baby shower. It's a bit much, but I'm glad they did it because I think we would have met one way or another. Tony and I, for 20 years prior, multiple times in different states, we were in blocks. We were within blocks of each other in Seattle, in LA, here in Minnesota where we live. Question, Tony, what is your religious background?
Let's see. I was brought up Catholic, baptized. I went through CCD, which are these Wednesday night classes that you do in order to take your first communion. I had taken first communion. My mom is Irish Catholic, and that's how we grew up. My father was Macedonian, but was not Orthodox. So we were brought up Catholic until I was able to shed that in my own way. Real quick, I have to say it this way. Anything anyone wants to do without hurting anybody, you do it. It's not my place to say yes or no to anybody's life and their choices, as long as it's not abusive, right? And I looked at it this way. We as young kids, we didn't have a choice. That's how it was. But at some point, you have a choice, and at some point, you can make a choice for yourself into what you want to do. And I chose not to be a Catholic.
Yeah. Maria, isn't it weird that Scientology limits community and connection, but people are afraid to leave it because they will lose it? Absolutely. And part of it is because Scientology runs in Scientology, they call it a can't have, something that you cannot have on people. And they use it as a threat, as a weapon. And if you created community and connection outside of Scientology, it becomes easier to leave. That's what happened with me. So, of course, they're very much against that. Rather be in Maui as a never in, but almost in, thankfully had insightfully smart parents. And so that was avoided. What is your best advice for us to help get rid of the cult beyond the legal action? Well, definitely reaching out to, I think it's going to be multiple things. It's all little, just like, I think Laura FM said it the other day, that cracks in the eggshell. That is a great analogy because every small thing is a crack in that shell, and then it's going to shatter. Contacting people, your legal representatives, who represent your city, your state, and asking where they stand on looking into Scientology's tax exempt status. Trust me, they get asked this enough. Yeah. If we can go to them showing how many people support this in their district or local news in your area about the abuses of Scientology, the more likely they are to listen and do something about it. And this is a year for that because everybody is up for re-election.
May I?
Yes.
It feels like this community, all of the SP content creators, spreading the word, right? So it feels like there's two things in my simplistic mind at the moment: tax exemption, having tax exemption status removed and revoked, and the people who are currently in Scientology, may not have access to channels like this and information like this, but the people not in the church who would have been the next class of Scientologists, we do have the opportunity to continue to share and grow this movement in order to stop people from joining, right? So tax exemption status and continue to spread the word so new people have the information.
Yeah, absolutely. Many people join Scientology for many different reasons, so they're going to leave for different reasons in different ways. We are going to have to wrap this up because we are getting close to 2 hours here.
Oh.
So, but continue, you can put your questions in the comments as well. I'm sure that Tony will join us again. Let's come up with another fun goal for 20,000. I would love, this might be hefty. This might be a hefty goal, but in Scientology, he's got his protest saying ready.
Come on.
In Scientology, I totally forgot my train of thought there. You totally distracted me with your beautiful sign.
I'm sorry. I should have waited. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, birthday game. In Scientology, they play the birthday game for L. Ron Hubbard, where they're going to get their statistics out. They're going to be straight up and vertical. That's what they always say. And so as a Scientologist, I had to play that game for like all the years I was in there. And L. Ron Hubbard's birthday is on March 13th. So my gift to him in Scientology is now going to be doubling our subscribers and our reach with this channel.
Yeah.
So we want to get to 20,000. That might be steep for by March 13th, but I thought, what the hell? It'd be fun. It'd be fun to try. And then
pedal to the metal.
Pedal to the metal. And then we'll figure out what we want to do, together as a community to celebrate that. We are definitely going to be getting out and doing some glamping, and we're going to take you guys with us because we're going to figure out how to live stream from the glamping.
That's one thing. It'll never be boring.
Yeah. That's early on in our relationship, he said, I can only promise you one thing. And I was thinking, oh, what's it going to be? And he's like, it'll never be boring.
And what is it? Is it true?
Yes.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has been true. It has absolutely been true. Make sure you check your subscribe button, and would love it if you subscribe to the channel if you're new here and like the video on the way out. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of the day.
Thanks for loving up on Natalie.
On both of us. Thank you. Truly. We appreciate you all so very much. Keep showing up, and we will keep showing up.
Thanks.
And in the meantime, get out there and have the most amazing cult-free day.